In tonight's headlines, Chief Executive Zhang Li praises SAR athletes for their performance at the Paris Olympics. Hongkongers also cheered and showed their support when the Olympians took a ride through the city in 2 open-top buses this morning. Hong Kong's second-largest public housing provider set to increase rents by 10% from October. And Hong Kong's stock market operator records its best second-quarter earnings with a 9% jump in net profit. The SAR's top officials celebrated the city's Olympians' performance in the Paris Games today in a home welcoming reception at government headquarters. Chief Executive Zhang Li, Chief Secretary Eric Chan and his deputy Werner Chuk, along with the Hong Kong Sports Federation and Olympic Committee President Timothy Falk, were among the officials present at the ceremony. The event featured highlights from the recent Paris Games, in which the city sent 35 athletes to compete in 13 disciplines. The team secured 2 gold and 2 bronze medals, setting new records for the SAR in multiple events.
運動員能夠過關斬將，取得奧運參賽資格。
Every one of the athletes, by qualifying for the Olympics, has proven themselves to be among the world's top level, the city's chief said. Overcoming difficulties and challenges, the athletes proved that Hong Kong is capable of competing on the world stage and has brought pride to the people with outstanding results. They are all heroes to Hongkongers, he added. Li also pointed out that the government will continue to support the city's development of sports activities. The city's journey in this year's Paris Games did not just end here. 23 SAR athletes will be participating in 8 events in the Paralympic Games slated to start next week. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News. The persistent rain this morning failed to dampen the fans' enthusiasm as the Olympians and the delegation to the Paris Games on board 2 open-top buses paraded through the city were greeted by cheering crowds for their historic performance. Residents lined the streets to welcome the athletes, including fencing gold medalist Vivian Kong, double freestyle swimming bronze medalist Siobhan Haughey, and mixed doubles table tennis pair Du Hoi Kim and Wang Chun Teng. Accompanied by Sports Federation and Olympic Committee President Timothy Falk and Sports Institute Director Tony Choi, other athletes from Team SAR also joined the event. Along the parade route, children eagerly took photos with the athletes. Some even ran alongside the bus, hoping for more glimpses of their heroes. This man admired the athletes, saying many local athletes have dedicated themselves to the Olympics for years, and their stories have touched the hearts of us Hong Kong people. There are too many fans, and I couldn't see them long enough. I wish the athletes could stay for a little longer, said this Siobhan fan. The atmosphere reached a fever pitch as the bus arrived at the clock tower in Tsim Sha Tsui, where the crowd erupting in cheers and applause. Vivian Kong, visibly overwhelmed by the support, responded with a hearty laugh and a thank you gesture. The 1.5-hour-long parade, which kicked off from the Sha Tin Sports Institute, saw the athletes travel through Tai Wai, Nathan Road, Wan Chai, Central, and finally to the government headquarters, where the athletes were greeted by the president of the Legislative Council, Andrew Leung, and other lawmakers. The athletes also engaged in a sharing session with students and took group photos with them at the Tamar Park before attending the luncheon held by Chief Executive Zhang Li at Government House. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
While Chang Yip-kai brought home the glory of another world champion for the SAR, not at the Olympics but in Pokemon Go World Championships, his teammate revealed that the journey to the top was marked by challenges, particularly in securing funding. Taking to the airwaves, former Pokemon Go Hong Kong team manager Sam Chang recounted the difficulties they had faced. Basically, whenever I said we were the Pokemon Go team representing the city in the World Championships, people either ignore me or call me a scammer and threatened to call the police, Chang said. Not only were they facing similar difficulties in fighting for financial support, but Chang revealed that Pokemon trainers also need to keep up training and study their competitors, which is no different from normal athletes. Despite the hardships, Cheng's success was phenomenal. The 16-year-old student became the first person from Hong Kong and Asia-Pacific area to win the Pokemon Go Championships held in Honolulu in Hawaii at the weekend.
Another batch of public housing talents in the city would be facing a rent hike as the Housing Society plans to increase rent by 10% starting October 1st, with a 3-month waiver for non-affluent tenants, according to sources. The 32,000 households living in subsidized housing offered by the Housing Society will have to pay $230 and $640 more per month on average. With a 3-month waiver, the new rent for less affluent tenants will be effective in January next year. The Housing Society has been adjusting its rents every 2 years since 2010. This marks the first time that it imposed a double-digit rent hike, making the increase on par with that of the Housing Authority, which will also be taking effect from October 1st with a 3-month waiver.
Despite some reductions, electric vehicle makers in the mainland are still facing significant challenges due to the new tariff rates imposed by the European Union on Chinese-made EV entering Europe. While the EU has lowered the planned tariff on Tesla vehicles imported from China from 20.8% to 9%, other Chinese EV firms are seeing only minor reductions in their tariffs. Companies that have not cooperated with the EU's investigation into alleged unfair subsidies are facing tariffs as high as 36.3%, while others are still subject to tariffs of up to 21.3%. Major Chinese EV manufacturers like SAIC, Geely, and BYD have seen only a small revision in their tariffs, with reductions ranging from 0.4% to 1.3%. EU explained that upon investigation, they believe Tesla received less government subsidies than other companies, hinting that joint ventures might receive lower tariffs. The EU launched its investigation in October last year, claiming that mainland's EV makers benefit unfairly from government subsidies and pose a threat to European EV companies, and later announced higher tariff plans in June this year. The Foreign Ministry has strongly condemned the EU's actions, urging them to stop using trade as a political tool and work towards a solution. Spokesperson Mao Ning stated, "We will take all necessary measures to protect Chinese businesses." Meanwhile, BYD's Asia-Pacific General Manager Liu Xueliang acknowledged that the 17% tariff imposed by the EU is impacting the company. However, he said that the world's largest EV maker had been taking steps to minimize the impact, including selling hybrid vehicles and building factories in Europe. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Police divers on the Italian island of Sicily resumed their search to locate 6 people who went missing when their luxury yacht sank after it was hit by a waterspout. The vessel was moved about 1 kilometer offshore from the town of Porticello when the mishap occurred 2 days ago. Carrying 12 passengers and 10 crew, the Bayesian, which is owned by British tech tycoon Mike Lynch, is now at a depth of 50 meters underwater. 15 of the 22 people on board survived, while 1 person died. Lynch and his daughter are among the 6 people still unaccounted for. Due to the depth, recovery crews can only stay underwater for 12 minutes and were not able to access the below-deck cabins. Access to the cabins was also blocked by furniture, which shifted during the violent storm. Rescue teams have deployed a remote-controlled underwater vehicle, or ROV, to help in the search.
Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing reported its best second quarter results on record, thanks to the revival of trading in the city. Net profits rose 9% to $3.155 billion, while a revenue of $5.42 billion was recorded, 8% higher than a year ago. Both figures reached record second quarter highs and met market expectations. Average daily turnover climbed 18% over a year ago to $121.6 billion. Listing activity in the city saw gradual signs of recovery in the second quarter, with initial public offerings raising a total of $8.6 billion, an increase of nearly 80% compared to the first quarter. However, for the first 6 months of the year, the amount raised by IPO shrank 25% to $13.4 billion. As of the end of June, the burst was processing 107 IPO applications. Chief Executive Officer Bonnie Chan noted that IPO in the city remained robust, and the city's burst operator remained cautiously optimistic about the outlook of the rest of the year, while macro environment uncertainties persist.
Our IPO pipeline remains robust, with around 100 applications. In the first half of 2024, we had 30 IPOs raising 13.4 billion Hong Kong dollars, including the first listing under Chapter 18C and the first GEM listing after our reforms. Looking at the second quarter, the IPO market saw a significant uptick. There was a 50% increase in listings and a 79% increase in fund raised compared to the previous quarter.
Evelyn Bai, Cable News.